What's up, guys? This is Chris Sarai bringing you another edition of the Car Concierge Show, the show that helps with the buying, selling, maintaining, and repairing of your vehicle. On today's show, we're going to talk about the latest recall from Ford as they figure out that these newer vehicles are going to definitely need some software retuning. After that, we're going to head over to Oakland, California, as they are continuing to have problems with SideShows, and the people specifically over in Piedmont are definitely getting upset. And last but not least, we're going to visit Hardinger Singh, the gentleman who got into the accident with the U-turn that he did on the highway, causing the death of those 3 people. It seems that he has not only been pulled over before, but he has drawn up lots of support for himself. So let's jump straight into it. And of course, we're going to start off with the recall situation. Ford has been definitely dealing with a lot of recalls lately, and it has definitely been keeping us busy, letting you guys know what recalls are out there. So Ford has come up with a recall on their Ford trucks. We're going to check out a quick video talking about it. We're going to read this story as well, so you get the full measure of what they're talking about. Let's check it out.
Over 355,000 Ford trucks are being recalled due to a potentially dangerous instrument panel malfunction. This issue, affecting several 2025-2026 models, including the F-150, can cause the dashboard display to fail, hiding crucial information like speed and warning lights. Consequently, this malfunction significantly increases the risk of accidents. However, Ford plans to address the problem through dealer updates or over-the-air software updates free of charge. Subscribe to our channel for more important consumer safety updates.
Alright, so that was just a quick video trying to explain a little bit about the story, but let's read the full story over at Yahoo Autos. Alright, so Yahoo Autos, Ford recalls 355,000 trucks after dashboard displays go dark. Al Landis. This is from Wednesday, August 27th. Imagine merging onto an I-95 and your speedometer just disappears. Your fuel gauge vanishes. Warning lights become invisible. Ford truck owners don't have to imagine this nightmare. It's happening to over 355,000 vehicles nationwide due to a software glitch that turns instrument panels into expensive black screens during startup. The recall affects 2025-26 Ford Super Duty trucks, F-250, F-350, F-450, and F-550, plus the 2025 F-150. When these digital dashboards fail, drivers lose access to the critical information like speed, fuel levels, and warning indicators, essentially flying blind in vehicles that weigh up to 19,000 pounds. When your truck's brain goes blank, the software defect strikes during engine startup, potentially leaving drivers without vital safety information. The instrument panel cluster, that's Ford speak for your digital dashboard, experiences what amounts to a software seizure during ignition. Start your truck for the morning commute only to stare at a completely dead display where your speedometer should be leaves you guessing whether you're doing 35 or 65 miles per hour. You can't tell whether that grinding sound warrants a warning light or if you have enough fuel to reach your destination. This isn't just inconvenient, it's dangerous. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration flagged this as a crash risk because drivers operating without speed or warning indicators face significantly higher accident probability. It's like texting while driving, except your own dashboard creates the distraction. The fix: software updates and September notifications. Ford promises free repairs through over-the-air updates or dealership visits with owner letters starting in September 2025. Ford's solution involves updating the instrument panel software, either beamed directly to your truck via over-the-air technology like your phone getting iOS updates, or through a dealership visit. Both options cost you nothing, which is the least Ford can do when selling trucks with faulty digital brains. Owner notification letters began mailing September 2nd, 2025. Can't wait? Check if your truck is affected by entering your VIN on the NHTSA website or calling Ford customer service. Don't ignore this. Your truck's computer might be one software glitch away from leaving you digitally stranded. This recall underscores a growing reality. Modern vehicles are smartphones with wheels. Compete with all the software reliability issues that entails. Computer problems in vehicles are becoming increasingly common. Ford owners shouldn't panic, but they should act quickly once notifications arrive. All right, so This is definitely one of them situations where I would just have to say, I told you so. And we understand that with all the new technology in these vehicles and all the computers that these vehicles have, this is going to happen. And I've said this many times, many times. Your car is just a big old computer on wheels. And from time to time, it's going to need software updates just like your phone, just like your computer, just like your laptop, just like most of your apps. This is the way of the world. And it's you have to realize that I don't think there's ever going to be a situation where a software is going to be set in stone, because it can be altered, it can be changed, it can be messed with to the point where it messes with your vehicle. And this, of course, is paramount to when we're talking about these software updates and getting software updates over the airwaves, as it were. They can also mess with your vehicle over the airways, as it were. And one of the many ways that they're breaking into vehicles or stealing vehicles is using, fake fobs that, pretty much are contacting or talking to your vehicle through the airwaves. So this is going to be the utmost of problems with these vehicles with their software updates. It's just going to be. It's going to continue to be a problem as we get into more electric vehicles, because they're more than anything else, they're just big old computers. And we're going to deal with this a lot. It's going to be a major issue coming up in the next couple years with all of these EV vehicles, with all of the gas-powered vehicles just have a lot of ECMs or computers or sensors. All these things, they're going to need to be worked on. They're going to need to be updated. And it's going to be a fairly regular situation where you're going to have to either drive by or go to the dealership to get software updates on your vehicle. It's just going to be one of those things. And there's really no way to kind of avoid that. Specifically, if you have a brand new vehicle, you're not going to be able to avoid it. It's just going to be a part of your routine to some degree. Because, like we say, it's just a big old computer on wheels. And with computers, you get random and multiple software updates. And then pretty much like your computer, the software update is upgraded every year. And you know what else? You standardly have to pay for it. So it's just another thing where I always talk about. Sometimes I want to go back to a time where we had vehicles that had to roll up windows, and dash was all digital, or dials and digital, analog, I guess, whatever. You know what I mean? I always talk about going back to that type of situation, because with all the technologies in these vehicles, it just makes them harder to fix, harder to work on, harder to diagnose, and easier to steal. All right, let's keep going. So, all right, right up the way from me, Oakland is having a major issue when it comes to SideShows. And, I've been to a couple of SideShows when I was up in Oakland. Let me just say, back when I first moved out to California, because I live less than an hour from Oakland. Let's put it this way. And you'd have to say where I live is totally different from Oakland, is my best way I can say it. But Oakland is dealing with some major problems when it comes to SideShows and the young people out there acting crazy, and the lack of police and all kinds of things, lack of everything. So let's check this story out, and we're going to give our opinion on what's going over in Oakland.
SideShows around the city this past weekend. New tonight, KTVU's Amber Lee live here in studio in Oakland, announcing that they did issue more than a dozen citations, all linked to multiple SideShows around the city this past weekend. New tonight, KTVU's Amber Lee live here in studio after speaking with residents who say they are still quite concerned. Amber.
That's right. My neighbors tell me they're concerned it'll happen again, and that the next time the chaos will escalate and injure or kill someone. They're calling on city leaders to take action to prevent SideShows. A sideshow that brought out hundreds of people, punctuated by illegal fireworks and spectators firing their guns in the air in Oakland's Piedmont Avenue district during the overnight hours of Sunday, is causing fear, frustration, and the thought of flight.
I was scared.
First thing I have to point out is that, fireworks are pretty much illegal, everywhere out here in California, right? And, this past 4th of July, some friends were shooting off fireworks, and they got like a couple of $1,000s worth of tickets because they had these illegal fireworks. And I'm wondering, with the fireworks and the sideshows and the cars and all these things, wouldn't these be, arrestable offenses to try to, stop this type of situation? But I don't want to jump in too fast. Let's keep going.
I was prepping to think, am I going to run? But if I run, we're going to be right in the midst of it.
Neighbors tell me their condo building shook from the explosions. They tell me they cannot erase the images of young people stomping on vehicles and setting one on fire. A total disregard for property and safety.
Are the wires going to catch on fire? Are they going to get the building?
Neighbors tell me it started shortly before 3 on Sunday morning and lasted for almost an hour, terrorizing people who live in the area. Residents say they didn't feel safe in their own homes.
You thought your life was in danger?
Yeah. Start doing shot fires in the air.
Neighbors say they saw young people setting bottles on fire and throwing them in the air. Police say they issued 21 citations and towed 4 vehicles in all the sideshows officers responded to in Oakland early Sunday morning. The department says it will work to identify additional vehicles involved, and investigators may go to the homes where they're registered and tow them. But residents say police did not take action until people started setting fires.
Really scary. And I've been afraid, and I still afraid because we don't know what's next.
The police union said there were only 16 police vehicles available to address the chaos. Mayor Barbara Lee issued a written statement. Quote, I am very clear we have more work to do, and we will continue to do the work to increase public safety in all of our neighborhoods.
I was thinking, is it going to happen again? So anytime like I hear the screeching of tires, it's like, is it happening again?
Neighbors say the crowd didn't disperse until the fire crews arrived on scene. Residents are asking city leaders to install concrete barriers and speed bumps to prevent sideshows.
Yeah, I don't know. It's.
I am Polestar.
Man. Okay, so it just, for me, it really signifies what the difference is on, where some areas are and some areas aren't. Okay, let me explain that. Like I said, I live maybe 45 minutes from Oakland, and where I live is just, it's very, very clean, very organized, no strip clubs, which was a problem for me when I first moved here. I ain't gonna lie to you. Heck, and another thing is, now I think about it, because a lot of my money was made in the clubs around this area, and now that I think about it, they pretty much got rid of all the clubs out here. This is taking me another direction. But let's stay with Oakland. It's what can we say? We got lots of kids that are just running the Oakland streets and they're doing whatever they want to do. And how is that possible? Where are the parents at? Who's being mindful of these children? Are these young adults that are past the ability of their parents to, control them or to guide them in the correct direction? What are we really talking about? Are we talking about single mother homes where the mothers are working too much, they don't have the ability to watch the children? What are we talking about that is causing these situations over in Oakland? I mean, and it's bad. I don't know, it could be their lack of police force, because I know they don't have a big police force there. But it's, you have to kind of try your best to figure out what is causing it to be like that. What is causing because this is not, Oakland has a lot of problems, let's face it. They had a lot of problems with their previous mayor, and Mayor Lee, or Barbara Lee, she's not, hasn't changed much of the situation as of yet either. And the idea, you really have to think that, what can they do when it comes to the police? They He said they gave out a whole bunch of citations. They towed a whole bunch of cars, but I don't think anybody was arrested for arson or vandalism, because these, they could be arrestable offenses. But then again, you have to think about it. Are they arrestable offenses? Are, the police going to take these people into jail for these offenses? Are these, underage people, so to the point where they won't go to jail? It's such a bad situation for Oakland that, it's hard to quantify what is going to necessarily be done to fix this problem. And you have to get into the idea or talk about how President Trump has decided that he was going to, initialize the National Guard over in Washington, D.C., and he's talking about doing it, or I think he did it in L.A., or he's doing it in L.A., and if he's thinking about doing that in Oakland, and if it would work or not. I mean, I've seen situations where people talk about that they'd be against that and they should, get their own people together. But then you have to ask yourself, why aren't they doing that now? If it's that easy and you just don't need the National Guard or whatever to come in, why aren't you doing those things now that would stop this from happening? Look, I don't go to Oakland a lot. I have to say, when I first moved out here, I probably went to Oakland every other weekend with the homies, and we go out. Oakland was bumping. It's always been bumping, and maybe that might have been part of the problem. But I had to go to Oakland about 3 weeks ago to look at a house that I was thinking about, buying or working with. And the street that the house was on, there was a car tipped on its side with just trash piled around it, and it had like some plaques up, and it looked like somebody was living under, on the underside of the car. And I was like, my first thought was that, do police drive by here and see that and not do nothing? It's a mess in Oakland, and I hope that, they figure something out to fix this. I hope that, because I've seen stories where, I saw a friend pop up a story talking about, we should stop calling, these children YNs. We're creating this negative connotation for them, but they're doing negative stuff. Why would you not give them a negative connotation? It's kind of the point. We're trying to point out that they're doing something wrong so people will notice that they're doing something wrong. So if they're your child or you have any sway with them, that you'll do something to fix them from doing stuff that's going to hurt them in their future. And I also saw a thing about, when I was talking about the Trump bringing the National Guard over to Oakland, I saw a thing where they were talking about how, what was it? Some organization was talking about how they could go about, getting these children in order in Oakland. And I was like, why aren't y'all doing that now? If you did it now, started now and getting that done, there will be no need for a National Guard. There would be no need for Trump to do anything, because you've gotten your city back in order. And that's what's got to happen. Somebody has to get Oakland back in order. Let's see who that person is. All right, so last but not least, we're going to visit I'm not going to say he's our friend because he killed 3 people. We're going to visit a man a legal immigrant. We're going to just call him a legal immigrant, Hardinger Singh, and revisit his story, as he is the gentleman that was, a CDL driver, and he was making that illegal U-turn on the highway, and subsequently a minivan plowed into him, and the 3 people inside the minivan died. Well, he has already had a run-in with the law before, and my question is, of course, going to be, did they notice signs that he shouldn't be a CDL driver at that time when they pulled him over? So we're going to check out this body cam footage of him getting pulled over in New Mexico. And we're just going to dive into another story after that about how he's getting major support.
You have 30 days to pay it. You can pay it online by phone or through the mail, or you can come back and see a judge. What would you like to do? Would you like to go to court, or would you like to just pay the fine? Pay the fine? Okay, yeah, you have 30 days, okay? Okay.
In the racket, my first time in the already in the 5 years in the no ticket.
No tickets?
Yeah.
I hate to be the first guy to write you a ticket. But
My first time.
no worries. I feel bad being the first guy to write you a ticket, but you know I try to help you out.
They said in my no license in the ticket.
What's that?
They send the ticket in the no my credit.
I'm sorry.
Boy, his English is horrible. But that's not, we don't live in a world where, you know, or not before. They've come up with some new laws where it's going to require people to know English a lot better to do these jobs, and so they can read signs and things of that nature. But obviously, for this state policeman, he didn't see that as any sign of anything. And of course he wouldn't have. If the man's license is good, which we know he had a good license, why would he? Let's keep going.
I guess I don't understand what
Maybe in this my ticket and my license or how many years?
Okay, all right. That's the whole video. So, and I'm assuming it's more to the video than that.
Now, I have to admit, when I saw this headline, I was very much doubtful about the authenticity.
A diaper this leak free?
All right, so, yeah. All we can really gauge from that is that, you know, we can understand that the fact is he had an official CDL. Cop let him go, gave him a ticket. Obviously he was doing something wrong, so he got a ticket. I think it was a speeding ticket. Wasn't really paying attention, but I think it was a speeding ticket he got. So we know he's interacted with police before. We know that his CDL or driver licenses are good because they let him go with just a ticket. So we can understand that he did the right things, as it were, to get... Okay. How can he have done the right things to get his CDLs and his driver's license if his English is so bad? How could he pass the test that we know need to be passed? Now we understand, we already talked about this before we did the story. Shout out to O'Shea Duke Jackson about, you know, over in, what was it, Kentucky, where they were selling CDL licenses to people for $200 a pop. And we can assume, because this gentleman, he had 2 CDLs, one from California and one for Washington State. So you obviously know that somebody helped him through the system. Somebody told him where he can get these CDLs from, and they be good. Definitely going over to California and get you a CDL from them, because, you know, they lax on it. They ain't gonna trip. You know, they're gonna help you out. So we understand that, you know, we live in a world where backdoor deals are made and people slide through the system, and he definitely was a person that slid through the system to the point where 3 people lost their lives. So, but even as he is one of those that slid through the system and still got his CDLs and everything, and he still did that U-turn to cause the loss of those 3 lives, he has support. Let's check out a story about all the support he's getting from other people.
So I brought you a video the other week going over how some states within the US actually allow illegal immigrants to get driver's licenses, and I mentioned a tragic case where an Indian truck driver caused a crash in Florida that killed several people. And I hadn't covered this case or this story in much detail until now, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because over 2 million people have signed a petition for leniency in this case. Let's have a look at why these people want the book not to be thrown at this truck driver and instead be given some compassion, and whether it's fair or not that he's given some leniency over this incident. In a quiet Florida town, a semi-truck driven by 26-year-old Hardinger Singh performed an illegal U-turn and crashed into traffic, killing several drivers. 3 people in total were killed by this, including a mother and her young son. Singh, who is an Indian migrant, survived but was arrested for vehicular homicide. Authorities say that he made an illegal U-turn leading to the crash, and the tragedy left the community in Florida reeling, with families mourning and questions swirling about Singh's past and immigration status. As news spread, a Change.org petition exploded, gathering over 2.2 million signatures. Supporters argue that Singh deserves a second chance, citing his clean record and contributions as a truck driver. One signer wrote that he's not a criminal, it was just an accident. And the petition also calls for halting his deportation, which he is potentially facing as a punishment for this case. The petition also claims that he's a hard-working immigrant chasing the American dream, and social media posts amplify the cause, with some framing it as a test of compassion versus strict immigration laws. Legal experts, though, say that vehicular homicide charges carry heavy penalties. If convicted, Singh could face prison time and certain deportation. And the case has fueled broader talks about road safety, migrant workers, and how justice systems handle accidents versus deliberate acts. Now, truck drivers are under pressure, not just migrant truck drivers, but all truck drivers within the US. It's a very difficult profession, and mistakes do happen. But at the same time, of course, knowing the laws of the road, knowing what the rules are for the place that you're in are absolutely crucial. And had Singh known the laws of the road in Florida, as well as a local would, then perhaps that incident would not have happened. But should Singh face deportation? Should he face prison time for what he has done? Well, I think at the end of the day, if you have done something where you have killed 3 people, albeit by all accounts by accident, accidents do happen, I get that, but at the end of the day, 3 people are dead. A mother and a young child are dead. And I think when these incidents happen, there has to be justice. What are you going to say to the families of the victims? Oh, this guy was actually from a different country. He wasn't aware of the laws of the road. He didn't mean to do it. It was just an accident. I don't think that's really going to fly. I really don't. I think that Singh should face some serious consequences for what he's done. But let's see what the US justice system does when it comes to this case. But guys, get your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what you have to say. Forgiveness or punishment? What is the correct thing here? What is actually justice when it comes to this case? I want to hear what you have to say about this either way. Like, share, comment, subscribe as always, guys, and have a fantastic day.
All right, yeah, and I totally concur. I definitely believe that he should be held accountable for what he did. And I say this a lot, when it comes to immigrants, for me, it's the title of illegal, which would cause more of the problems, for me when we talk about this, because, if the fact that he was an illegal immigrant and he was still allowed to gain a CDL driver's license with a very minuscule ability to speak the language tells me so much. It tells me about all of the assistance he must have gotten to get his CDLs, all of the people closing their eyes and turning their backs so he can walk through this process. And the fact is that if he was forced to become a legal immigrant, if he was forced to learn the language, he was first forced to learn, if he was forced to learn the rules of the road, because obviously it was. We can say it was an accident. We cannot sit here and say that we think that he killed those people on purpose. There is no way, shape, or form we can say that. But if he understood the rules of the road, specifically the rules of the Florida highway, he would have understood that that was a massive illegal U-turn that he was making, and he wouldn't have did it, and it wouldn't have caused the loss of those 3 lives. And that's my whole thing, is that we have to understand that if illegal immigrants are being allowed to get these CDLs and all these things, it comes with a lot of problems. If they don't have the ability to speak the language correctly, they're going to have problems with reading signs. All of the things that they tackled on that new law that dictates CDL drivers pretty much have to be able to read English. And not only that, we just understand that all of the rules, all the tests, all of the certifications that people standardly have to go through to get their CDLs, he didn't go through those like a normal person would. He couldn't because he doesn't speak the language. So that in itself tells us that putting him on the road in itself is dangerous. And for that reason alone, he should be punished. And not only should he be punished, but any person who helped him to gain his CDLs or anything of that nature should be punished too. Because they enabled him to do this. And of course, we still say it was an accident. He didn't do it on purpose. But we have to understand that there's lots of safeguards that are there prior to this happening that will stop those 3 people from dying. Alright guys, I'm going to let y'all go and get up out of here. I am Chris Surratt. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Car Concierge Show. Please like, share, subscribe. Hit me in the DMs if you have any questions. Hit me with some comments. Let me know what you think of the show. And I'm out of here. Peace.